Welcome to the Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. I'm Madhavdas G. Today, former U.S. President Donald Trump has addressed a triumphant Republican event in Florida and formally claimed victory over Kamala Harris and the Democrats. This came after pollsters declared multiple crucial swing states for Trump, including North Carolina, Georgia, and the all-important Pennsylvania. Accompanied by his family, including wife Melania and daughter Ivanka, as well as his vice presidential pick J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance, Trump declared his intention to fix America, hailed Elon Musk as a star, and also got congratulations from several world leaders. Let's hear what Trump had to say in his victory speech.
But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America. Let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. But he's a character, he's a special guy, he's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
And let's break this down for you, viewers. Let's take you across to the seat and state tally. This is really where the numbers are stacked up at the moment as far as the U.S. presidential poll is concerned. When it comes to the total of the 50 states, 19 appear to be headed towards Kamala Harris and 27 appear to be headed towards Donald Trump. In terms of the electoral votes, 222 towards Kamala Harris and 276 towards Donald Trump. This is as far as the total seats are concerned. Let's also quickly show you some of the other details. In fact, why it's historic, a number of reasons, of course. This is, in fact, the swing states that have voted. Now, clearly over here, Trump appears to be either winning or leading all. The seats that have been called, the states that have been called, I beg your pardon, are Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. The states in which Trump is leading are Nevada, Michigan, and Arizona. Why this is important is because these 7 states are widely believed to be the states that are make or break. And of course, the battleground states, as these swing states are called, are really, of course, where things are going to get tough and where the battle really was being fought. Malvika is joining us at the moment from Washington, D.C. Malvika, I believe you have a supporter of Kamala Harris with you. Very brave man to come out on a day where Trump has already announced victory. But what are the thoughts going on in his mind as to why Kamala didn't click? Is it because of the issues she raised? Is it because she came so late into the fight? What really happened in this election? Or was it just the promises that Trump made to the voters of US?
Sure, he's definitely a very brave man, because I tried talking to so many people and he's the only one who was willing to speak. This is a Democratic area, so I couldn't find a Republican. But hi, welcome to Times Now. My first question to you is that, could you tell us your name? And, it was a neck-to-neck race, or so it seemed, and now we're seeing a landslide victory for Donald Trump.
Yeah, so my name's Corey Connery. I'm from California, actually visiting. So, yeah, I was actually pretty surprising watching it through the night. Broke through the blue wall, as they said, in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So I was actually pretty surprised with the exit polling saying one thing and then the actual polling saying another. So.
And what do you think were the reasons that led to Trump's victory? Was it the rallies? Was it the Elon Musk element? Or something beyond that? I
think it was just connecting to the voters of blue-collar states. It wasn't really anything different because he lost those last time. I think that just because the difference between him and Kamala Harris were different. That a lot of them were just feel more connected towards Trump than they did towards Kamala Harris. So.
Wonderful. So it seems that, as we've been reporting, while the polls were indicating it was a neck-to-neck victory, Donald Trump has swept the swing states and he is going to be the 47th president of the United States.
Thanks so much for that update. And that building behind you is very significant because both the houses of, the parliament there, that is the Capitol Hill, would be in fact getting a Republican majority, at least going by what's before us at the moment. And that is very significant because the decision-making process then for Donald Trump becomes that much easier, something that we haven't seen in a while now. Thanks so much for that quick update there, Malvika. And let's quickly take this across to Bob McKinley. He's a founder and president of Rapid Energy and former White House advisor. Thank you so much, Bob McKinley, for joining us. And now that Trump has given his victory speech, how do you see the U.S. partnership with India changing as Donald Trump approaches his presidency?
I think the Trump administration will be very friendly towards India. It sees India as a major economic power, trading partner, and an ally in resisting Chinese aggression. So I think the instinct is to be quite friendly towards India. There is one potential area, however, where there could be some friction, and that is that India has become a major importer of Russian oil due to the sanctions put on Russia after it invaded Ukraine. And I believe that President Trump will be looking to tighten sanctions on Russia, to put economic pressure on Mr. Putin, so that he can bring the war in Ukraine to an end. And so to that degree, I think India, which has benefited economically from obtaining cheap Russian oil, may have to bend a little bit and work with the Trump administration to help put that war to bed. So I think that's one area of friction. But otherwise, I think India and the United States are natural allies and partners. And I think that will continue under President Trump as well.
And how do you think Trump will differ in addressing issues such as the Israel-Palestine conflict, Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional stability? What are the potential outcomes for U.S. interests in this region?
I think President Trump is going to prioritize confronting the Iranian threat, which links to Russia and Ukraine. It will prioritize putting maximum economic pressure on Iran, reducing the 1.5 to 1.8 million barrels a day of crude oil exports that President Biden has allowed Iran to return to, so as to reduce the money that Tehran earns, that it uses to attack Israel and our allies and even our own forces in the region. And it also uses to fund Russia and assist Russia in its war against Ukraine. So that'll be, I think, a top foreign policy priority of the Trump administration from the very beginning. Also, with regard to ending the war in Ukraine, I think there's an understanding among Trump and his advisors that more pressure needs to be put on President Putin to be willing to end the war on reasonable terms. And so that means that the sort of moderate tightening in sanctions that President Biden has been implementing in recent months will be, I think, intensified under President Trump. And again, This is an issue perhaps for India, because India has been the main beneficiary in some ways from sanctions on Russia, because India has been able to import most of its oil from Russia, where it used to receive almost nothing, at very low prices due to these sanctions. And I think this may conflict with the Trump administration's desire to squeeze Mr. Putin tighter in order to get the war ended with Ukraine.
And what about the Israel-Palestine conflict? Will Trump approach this any differently than we've seen in the past?
I think President Trump will strongly support Israel. I think he wants, and he has said he wants that conflict to end soon. I think he thinks that perhaps Israel could do a better job at explaining what it's doing. Its public relations should be improved, according to Mr. Trump. But I think he wants to support Israel. He realizes Israel has suffered a tragic blow on October 7th of last year, and it has serious security issues to rectify, and he's going to support them in doing that. I don't think you'll see the criticism of Israel that you saw from President Biden with regard to Israel's tactics and so forth. I think there'll be more understanding and supportive of Israel, but he will want to get it over with quickly. I think his preference would be that the wars end by the time he takes office in late January.
All right. And how do you see the tweets by Elon Musk, of course, an iconic businessman and has been one of the star campaigners for President Trump this time round? He says that you're the media now. He goes on to saying that America is a nation of builders. Soon you'll be free to build.
Well, I think Mr. Musk's statements speak to a broader agenda that President Trump wants to implement, and that is to reshore manufacturing in the United States, whether it's electric vehicles, gasoline vehicles, wafer chips, critical technologies, all kinds of equipment and so forth. He wants to rekindle America as a creating state where manufacturing comes back again to the United States. So I think Mr. Musk reflected that, and that's very much in line with President Trump's agenda and how he intends to implement it.
Right. And we've also seen trends reversing and Trump coming out as a favorite even in swing states. This includes Pennsylvania, where an attempt was made to assassinate him. What do you think changed in the last 1.5 months?
Okay, so I answered this question before, but happy to do it again. So what changed was Vice President Kamala Harris had enjoyed a bump in support after she replaced President Biden at the head of the Democratic ticket. She also had a good convention and a successful debate with Donald Trump. However, that bump didn't last. And what we've seen is she has failed to convince the American public that she has an answer to inflation and an answer to the border with Mexico. These are the top issues that Americans are concerned about. And she failed to sort of articulate a set of policies to address it. Instead, she tried to base her candidacy on just opposition to President Trump. And what the results show from this election is that the public is willing to overlook concerns about President Trump, his statements, his actions, if they believe he will deliver on lower inflation and a secure border. I think that is the lesson of what we're seeing in this election return here.
Thank you so much, Bob McAnally, to join us and explain this down from your perspective in terms of somebody who's been an advisor to the White House and how, of course, President Trump would be looking at all of this. Thank you so much for explaining that for us. All right, let's go across to our other guests who are with us live at the moment. We have Karen Giono, who's a former 2016 Trump senior advisor, and Florida chief strategist Dr. Swasti Rao is also with us. And also joining us at this point of time is Pastor Shannon Wright, Republican leader who's fought mayoral elections from Baltimore in the past. Let's quickly go across to Karen Giono first. Karen Giono, what really worked? How did things change in the swing states so drastically? 7 out of 7 is no mean feat. What really happened on ground?
Good to be with you this morning. It is a historic day, and we're looking at an iconic figure. Donald Trump defied the odds in 2016 and had a repeat in 2024, but even with a more robust outcome. I do believe that he went back to his original playbook, and that is to go after each and every voter, especially when it came to the demographics in each one of the 7 swing states. He really targeted the economy. He really targeted inflation and the ability to eradicate some of the problems that were prolific during the last 4 years that were affecting people in their day-to-day, whether it was individual, family-related, or business-related. They were feeling this pinch with inflation and poor economic outcomes with each of the bad policies that were coming out of the Biden-Harris White House. So he went back to the playbook of going after the everyday man, the everyday woman, mostly blue-collar tradesmen came out for Donald Trump in numbers, in record numbers. And you see that reflected across the board.
Right. Very interesting. And in fact, let me bring in Dr. Swasti Rao, what really Trump would mean. In fact, as I was mentioning earlier, Pastor Shannon Wright is also with us now on the broadcast. In fact, I'll just quickly get a question in from Pastor Shannon Wright before I come to you, Swasti. Pastor Shannon Wright, how do you look at this? Because is it the working class? And in fact, very significant that when President Trump spoke, he spoke about, the working class across different demographics that have voted for him. Is that something that's really happened? Because going by reports coming in, more women have voted for Trump than Kamala Harris. Working class across different regions, religions, races have voted for President Trump. And is that quite clearly discernible from the results before us so far?
Absolutely. The election results in the United States said something very, very loudly and clearly. The fact that the Republican Party won the White House, Senate, and held Congress says that the values, core values, the things that wake people up in the morning and that they think about when they go to sleep are more everyday people related than was assumed. So in my spirit, I understand that this was a victory for families. This was a victory for economics. This is a victory for safety. This is a victory for traditional values. Now, I'm not saying that those are all in Donald Trump, but what I am saying is people were tired of their votes being taken for granted. People are tired, the regular working class folks are tired of feeling like they're not being heard when it comes to the economy, when it comes to everyday issues and concerns. So they made a loud statement.
Absolutely. In fact, Dr. Swasti Rao, earlier we had Bob Kelly on the show, and he was telling us about how things might change as far as India being able to buy cheap fuel, for instance, from Russia, the sanctions that are there. Perhaps President Trump could go harder, take a harder line on that. Of course, India also purchases a lot of energy from Iran. That concern apart, tariffs is a big issue. Immigration policies are a big issue as well. Do you see these as becoming sticking points, or do you think that it will be smooth flow between India and United States in coming years?
Well, thank you for your question, and wonderful to be here. And what a victory it has been, isn't it? Congratulations to all Americans for this wonderful, wonderful mandate that you've given to President Donald Trump. And it's very unprecedented. I mean, we've been tracking it for the last 2 days, and nobody expected him to, come out with such flying colors. So that indeed is something which is very historic. So congratulations to you. And now to your question, Madhav. Well, yes, as far as foreign policy is concerned, and since you asked me a specific question on, for example, the Ukraine war, and then on how does India look at it, and all the policies. See, I have already argued through my writings earlier and through my other interventions at multiple places that as far as foreign policy is concerned, I think there has been this hurry, especially in India and Indian strategic thinking, that he is going to come and just basically going to end the war tomorrow, and he's just going to withdraw from NATO, and everything is will be focused on Indo-Pacific, etc. I think that's a fairly simplistic understanding. I've been mentioning that the world that Donald Trump inherited in 2016 is a radically different world today. And actually today, somebody like Trump is needed, in fact, to make Europe wake up from the peace dividend years and to actually stand up for its own security. So that in that regard, of course, Donald Trump is a welcome change even for Europe. But as far as Ukraine is concerned, I've always been of the opinion that he's going to be more pragmatic. Yes, he's going to exert more pressure on President Putin to end the war. That's one. And in that pressure, he could also actually combine that with the Lend-Lease agreement, which the Biden administration had signed, but never really activated, and kept using the presidential drawdown authority for giving most of the money to Ukraine. And that was one of the reasons why the common American taxpayer felt so violated, thinking that that money is not going to come back, maybe. So what Donald Trump perhaps will do is to make these 8 packages
is extremely transactional, if at all. And in that, space, there is a possibility. I mean, I've been speaking to the Poles, to the East Europeans, to Ukrainians, to also to French, to Germans. I mean, that's basically an area that I've been working on for the last 6 years now. And they are of the opinion that because of his unpredictability, there is also a space of him doubling down on that effort before and, giving the Ukrainians a kind of a cutoff date.
Right.
That, okay, you do what you want to do. We lift the red lines. And now since North Korea is also involved in this war, it makes sense that the two theaters are getting linked. And therefore, we will also try to sort of, go after North Korea and try to stabilize the Indo-Pacific theater.
Okay.
So all of that actually remains very plausible. Now, quickly, the impact on India, Madhav, is that India was never really a buyer of Russian oil. And as far as the war has been concerned, I think India has made it very clear to its Western partners as well that it doesn't support war, but at the same time, India is also acting in its own national interest. Because the geopolitical situation was such that India, it actually made sense for India. And by the way, please also, it is a good time to remember that if you remember all the discussions that Janet Yellen has had and all the other, American lawmakers have had, one of the reasons why the G7 price cap actually worked, whatever little it could, was because that India allowed for the rerouting by buying all that Russian oil and keeping the oil prices stable. So I think it is not really going to be a major problem. It is going to be maybe perhaps a kind of a sticky point, but this is not going to come in the way of the long-term convergence that the two sides see. And I believe that
Doctor, many would question the celebrations that, of course, that have taken place. But the question that would be on many people's minds, particularly in Kamala Harris's ancestral state of Tamil Nadu, is that what went wrong? Where did she fail to convince the voters there in the United States?
Well, I do believe that she did not read the American electorate. It's really that simple. She fell flat. And as the polling came in and the data came in, I think they need to go back and look at what they missed because it was a big swing and a huge miss. She did not capture the popular vote. This is something that's going to sting the Democrats, because they kept talking about, we need to get rid of the Electoral College, we need to go to a popular vote. Well, interestingly enough, Donald Trump won the popular vote and he won the Electoral College. So that kind of makes it a moot point for the Democrats moving forward. Kamala Harris started out without one vote from the Democrat Party. She did not participate in the primaries. And I think that sticking point, even for Democrats who were very excited about and underwhelmed with her candidacy. The other thing that I would just stress here is never in my 35 years of working in presidential politics in 5 presidential races has a candidate won because they are basically putting out to the American people to vote for them, not because they are producing best agenda, but because they the other guy. Don't vote for the other guy.
Yeah, so it's a negative vote that was being campaigned for. Thanks so much, Karen Giono, for joining us, as well as Dr. Swasti Rao for joining us and breaking down what this really means as far as India is concerned and what its implications are really for India, as well as, of course, Pastor Shannon Wright for joining us with your views as well. Thank you so much.